1. J.J. Watt, the heart that wouldn't stop. It started with a secret. No one knew what J.J. Watt was hiding. Not his teammates, not the fans, not even the media that followed his every move. To everyone watching, October 2nd, 2022 looked like any other Sunday, but behind the scenes, Watt's body was betraying him. He felt it before anyone else did. The short breath, the tightness in his chest, the kind of fatigue no athlete wants to admit. He tried to push through it like he always had until the doctors forced him to stop. When they ran the tests, the truth was undeniable. Watt's heart wasn't beating right. It was out of rhythm, spiraling into atrial fibrillation, a condition that can cause strokes or sudden cardiac arrest. For most people, it's an emergency. For J.J. Watt, it was an inconvenience. Doctors rushed him into treatment, they sedated him. Then, they did the unthinkable. They shocked his heart back into rhythm. Electricity through his chest, one pulse to restart another. He woke up sore, shaken, but alive, he told no one. Not the league, not his team, not the media. He didn't want sympathy, he didn't want headlines, he just wanted to play. And 5 days later, he did. While the world still knew nothing, J.J. Watt took the field, his heart freshly restarted, his body still recovering from a life-threatening scare. No cameras captured his fear, no broadcast mentioned the risk. Only after the game did he reveal the truth, with a single tweet. I went into AFib on Wednesday, my heart was shocked back into rhythm on Thursday. I'm playing today. It wasn't arrogance, it was devotion to the game, to his team, to the identity he'd built through pain, sacrifice, and relentless grit. That Sunday, every snap carried more than just impact. It carried defiance. J.J. Watt didn't just beat a heart condition, he beat doubt, fear, and mortality itself. He didn't want pity, he wanted the ball, and he proved that the strongest muscle in football isn't in your chest, it's in your soul. 2. Stefon Diggs, the miracle in Minnesota. Some moments in football don't just change a game, they change everything. January 14th, 2018, NFC Divisional Round. Vikings versus Saints. 10 seconds left. Minnesota down by 1. Their season hanging by a thread, every fan in the stadium felt it. That crushing silence before a miracle. The ball was snapped. Case Keenum dropped back. He threw deep down the right sideline to Stefon Diggs, one defender closing fast, another waiting behind him. The kind of play that ends dreams more often than it saves them. But Diggs didn't flinch. He leapt, he caught it, he spun, and suddenly, he was gone. Into the end zone. Game over. Touchdown. 61 yards of disbelief. It wasn't just a win, it was resurrection. The Minneapolis Miracle, one of the most iconic plays in NFL history. An entire stadium erupted into chaos. Players, coaches, fans, grown men in tears. Diggs stood there frozen, helmet in hand, staring into the stands as if he couldn't believe it himself. You could see it in his eyes, the weight of everything he'd ever worked for crashing all at once. The pain of every loss, every doubt, every second spent believing this game could give him something eternal. In that moment, Stefon Diggs wasn't just a wide receiver. He was a symbol of persistence, of faith, of refusing to quit when logic says it's over. He didn't talk trash, he didn't celebrate, he cried. And those weren't tears of ego, they were tears of release. Because in 1 second, he had carried an entire city's heartbreak and flipped it into history. The miracle in Minnesota wasn't luck. It was destiny finally breaking through. 3. Aaron Rodgers, the night New York's hope fell silent. It was supposed to be the perfect story. A city that had waited decades for a savior, finally got one on September 11, 2023, the anniversary of one of America's darkest days, and the night Aaron Rodgers made his debut as a New York Jet flags waving, lights burning across the skyline, and an entire nation watching as one of the greatest quarterbacks ever ran onto the field carrying the American flag. In that moment, it felt bigger than football. It felt like hope. Rodgers had been traded from Green Bay to bring life back to a franchise drowning in mediocrity. 4-time MVP, future Hall of Famer, the missing piece for a city desperate for relevance. Every Jets fan believed this was it, the night their misery finally ended. But fate doesn't care about storylines. 4 plays, that's all it took. A simple drop back, a missed block, and a cruel twist of the ankle. Rodgers went down. The stadium went silent. The man who was supposed to lead New York to glory couldn't even stand. He was helped off the field, not walking, not waving, just staring into the distance, knowing something was wrong. Within minutes, the entire sports world froze. Tweets poured in from Patrick Mahomes, Kevin Durant, Pat McAfee, disbelief flooding every corner of the internet. The hope of a city had evaporated before halftime, and when the MRI results came in the next morning, it became official. A torn Achilles. Season over. Dream gone. A legacy suddenly rewritten by one cruel snap. That night, the Jets still found a way to win, rallying behind the very man who couldn't be there to finish what he started. But even in victory, the emotion was heavier than celebration. It felt like mourning. Rodgers' injury wasn't just a setback, it was a reminder that even legends can't outrun time, a symbol of how quickly glory can vanish. In a blink, in a twist, in one breath of silence, beneath the lights of New York. For 4 plays, hope felt eternal. Then, just like that, it was gone. For Knowshon Moreno, the tears that spoke for every player. Sometimes emotion doesn't wait for the final whistle. Sometimes it hits before the game even begins. December 1st, 2013. The Denver Broncos lined up for the national anthem. Cameras panned across the field, stopping on running back Knowshon Moreno, and what they captured stunned the world. Tears were streaming down his face. Not a few, not subtle. They poured from his eyes like rain, falling down his cheeks in thick, steady streams. It didn't take long for the moment to explode online. Memes, jokes, edits. Fans said he cried enough to water the field, that his tears could hydrate a team. It became one of the most viral images in NFL history. Knowshon Moreno, the greatest crier of all time. But what most people missed was the truth behind it. Those weren't tears of weakness. They were the raw release of everything this game demands. Sacrifice, exhaustion, pride, and love. When asked later, Moreno simply said he was just feeling blessed to even be out there. For him, it wasn't about fame or fear. It was about the anthem, the crowd, the moment, realizing what it meant to stand on that field after years of pain, rehab, and doubt. It was gratitude made visible. Football breaks bodies, it breaks hearts, but it also gives purpose. And in that moment, Knowshon Moreno showed every fan what real passion looks like. He didn't need words, his tears said everything. 5. Jamal Williams, tears, records, and redemption. Some tears come from pain, some from pride, and sometimes they come from both at once. January 8, 2023, Lambeau Field. Jamal Williams, a running back the Green Bay Packers once let go, now stood on the other sideline in Detroit blue. It was the final game of the season. For the Lions, no playoff berth. For the Packers, win and they're in. But for Jamal, this game meant everything. He was chasing a record that had stood untouched for decades. Barry Sanders' franchise mark for rushing touchdowns in a single season. 15 wasn't enough. 16 wasn't enough. He needed one more. Late in the game, against his former team, with everything on the line, Jamal broke through the line and crossed the goal line. Touchdown number 17, a new Detroit Lions record. The crowd erupted, but Jamal couldn't hold it together. In his post-game interview, his voice cracked. He clutched the game ball tight, eyes full of tears. "My great-grandfather died on me. I just dedicate this to him. I'm grateful I could do this for him." He spoke through sobs, raw, unfiltered emotion. It wasn't about numbers or revenge. It was about family, about legacy. The man who raised him, who believed in him, who wasn't there to see it, but who was there in spirit. Then, as the tears fell, that fire returned.
Don't let these tears fool you. There's all dog around this mug.
Don't let these tears fool you. It's all dog around this mug. That single line said it all. Grief and grit in the same breath. Balance of heart and hunger that defines the great ones. Jamal Williams didn't just break a record. He broke through pain, doubt, and history, and showed the world that sometimes emotion is what gives a player his edge. That day, his tears weren't weakness. They were proof that football still has a soul. 6. Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant versus the GOAT. He wasn't supposed to matter. The NFL called him Mr. Irrelevant, the title given to the very last player chosen in the draft. The guy nobody expects to play a single meaningful snap. But destiny doesn't care about expectations. Brock Purdy's name wasn't even spoken clearly on draft night. Announcers stumbled over it. Cameras cut away early. Yet somewhere in Iowa, a family screamed like he'd just been picked first overall. His father jumped, his mother cried. Not because of fame, but because of what it meant. After every long drive, every late practice, every doubt-filled night, their son had made it. But the NFL doesn't hand out fairy tales. Purdy landed in San Francisco, a team already loaded with quarterbacks. Brock wasn't even supposed to dress for games, let alone lead one. Then fate went to work. Lance broke his ankle, Garoppolo broke his foot, and suddenly, all that stood between Purdy and the huddle was fear. His first start came against the greatest to ever play, Tom Brady, the GOAT. 7 rings, 23 seasons. Across the line of scrimmage stood the man who defined everything Brock had dreamed of becoming. But dreams don't wait. From the first snap, Purdy played like the script had flipped. Poise, precision, confidence beyond his years. By halftime, the rookie was dominating Brady's Buccaneers, 21-0. The camera found his father in the stands, tears streaming down his face, hands shaking as he filmed every snap on his phone. He wasn't watching football. He was watching his son live out the impossible. After the game, a 35-7 statement, Brock didn't boast. He just smiled through trembling words. He said seeing his parents after the final whistle meant more than any stat line ever could. They've always believed in me, even when no one else did. For most players, beating Tom Brady would be the moment that defines them. For Brock Purdy, it was the moment that defined his family. Years of sacrifice, of faith, of quiet belief, all vindicated in one perfect afternoon. He wasn't Mr. Irrelevant. He was a son proving his parents right. A young man reminding the world that heart still beats louder than hype. And as his father wiped his tears in the stands, it was clear. This wasn't a story about the GOAT he beat. It was about the love that built him to believe he could. 7. Henry Ruggs, the tragedy that changed everything. Some stories don't end with a celebration. Some end with silence, and guilt, and a lifetime of questions that will never have answers. Before the headlines, before the tragedy, Henry Ruggs was a kid from Montgomery, Alabama, fast, gifted, full of light. His best friend, Roderick Scott, was always by his side. They were inseparable. 2 kids with one dream. Roderick wore number 3, Ruggs wore number 2. They swore they'd make it together. Then one rainy night changed everything. Roderick's car hydroplaned on the way to a basketball tournament, the same ride Henry was supposed to take. Ruggs had gotten sick and stayed home. That decision saved his life. It took his best friends. From that moment, Henry carried more than ambition. He carried Roderick's spirit. Every touchdown, every celebration, every game, he raised 3 fingers to the sky. That wasn't showmanship, it was grief made ritual. He promised he'd make it for both of them. And he did. Alabama, first-round draft pick, a star in the making. The kind of speed scouts dream about. The kind of talent Roderick always said he had. Henry Ruggs was living 2 dreams at once. But grief doesn't disappear. Sometimes it twists. On November 2nd, 2021, everything fell apart. After a night out in Las Vegas, Ruggs got behind the wheel of his Corvette, a car he'd bought to celebrate success, the dream car he and Roderick used to talk about. He was drunk. He was driving 156 miles per hour, and in seconds, it all ended. The crash was violent, the fire uncontrollable. A young woman and her dog were trapped in the other car. Both killed instantly, Ruggs survived, but everything else burned with that wreck. The same hands that once lifted a football to the sky were now cuffed behind his back. The same man who honored his friend's death had now taken another life. When his teammates spoke afterward, their words broke under the weight of disbelief. "My heart goes out to Henry," one said. "You never think this guy could hurt anyone. He needs people to love him right now," said another. "If no one else will, I will." Because even in tragedy, humanity doesn't vanish. It hurts, it confuses. It forces you to see that heroes can fall, and when they do, they fall hard. Henry Ruggs was sentenced to prison, his career gone, his promise erased. And every time his story is told, there's no cheering, no redemption, only a haunting reminder that a single choice can destroy everything you've ever lived for. He once played for his best friend's memory. Now he'll spend years living with another's. That's the cruelest emotion of all, knowing that love and loss can share the same name. 8. Damar Hamlin, the night the NFL stopped. It was supposed to be another primetime clash. Bills versus Bengals, January 2nd, 2023. A playoff atmosphere, a nation watching. And then, in one heartbeat, football stopped mattering. Damar Hamlin made what looked like a routine tackle. He stood up, then collapsed. No movement, no sound, just panic. Players waved frantically to the sideline, coaches screamed for help, and suddenly, the biggest league in the world felt powerless. Trainers sprinted onto the field, performing CPR as grown men fell to their knees, praying, crying, pleading. Tears streamed down the faces of players who'd built their lives on toughness. Now watching a teammate's life slipping away in front of them, 7 minutes passed, then 10, then 20. No one cheered, no one looked away. The cameras kept their distance, but the silence said everything. For the first time in memory, an NFL game was suspended, not because of weather or logistics, but because no one knew if a man was still alive. Damar Hamlin's heart had stopped. He went into cardiac arrest on live television. Medical staff fought to bring him back. Oxygen, defibrillator, chest compressions. And after 9 excruciating minutes, they did. They revived him on the field, right where his teammates stood weeping. That night, the scoreboard went dark. The game was over, but something bigger began. Across the league, rivals prayed together. Stadiums lit up in blue. Hamlin's charity toy drive, which once aimed to raise a few $1,000s, exploded to over $9 million overnight. Because for once, everyone understood that behind the helmets and headlines, these are human lives. Days later, when Damar woke up in the hospital, his first words weren't about himself. He wrote, "Did we win?" The doctor replied, "Yes, Damar, you won the game of life." Weeks later, he walked back into the stadium that nearly became his grave, alive, smiling, surrounded by the brothers who refused to stop believing. For a league built on power and violence, that moment showed the other side of football, the side made of heart, faith, and unity. Because on that night, it wasn't about stats or standings, it was about a heartbeat that came back when the world thought it was gone. And when Damar Hamlin opened his eyes, so did the rest of us. Reminded that even in the toughest game on earth, humanity will always be stronger than the hit. If you want more stories of NFL greatness and heart, hit subscribe, drop a like, and stick around. The next chapter of football history is already waiting.